Time. That was loud. All right. Good afternoon. I would like to officially call the August 24th, 2026 City Council regular meeting to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, may I please have a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski.
Present.
Vice Mayor Mary Ann McCallum.
Present.
Council members Jane Duboscus. Here. Barry Graham.
Here.
Adam Quasman. Here. Kathy Littlefield. And Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Greg Caton.
Here.
City Attorney Louis Santea.
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
Acting City Auditor Lake Clough.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. This afternoon we have Scottsdale police officers Savage, Ortiz, and Sergeant Bowles, as well as Scottsdale firefighters Christine Capitano and Andrew Taylor. If anyone requires their assistance, please let a member of our staff know. For the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to call upon Councilman Quasman to lead us in that.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And for the invocation, oh, here we go. Hello. Let the record reflect, Councilwoman Littlefield has arrived.
I apologize for
No worries, no worries. It's too hot out there to go in a hurry. To speed, right? No pun intended. Okay, next we have the invocation, which I'd like to call upon Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight we were supposed to hear from Pastor Chris Wordard from Valley Presbyterian Church, but like all dads of small children, he caught a bug and got sick and isn't here, so maybe we should take a moment of silence for him. But also, I mean, I think all of us feel the weight of all the troubles that we have going on in this world. I think most of us, like myself, wake up grateful every day and just wanted to have a moment of silence to give just as a thought about how we can be part of the solution and make the world a better place. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. As in for the mayor's report, first I'd like to welcome you all back to City Hall. Thank you for being here. It's been an eventful summer. While many of you, I'm sure, got some traveling in. For the first time in 35 years, I stayed here all summer. And I'm happy to report it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It was a pretty nice summer, so exciting times. Scottsdale, one of the highlights for me, and I think for Scottsdale, was we hosted the Small Business Administration Supplier Matchmaker Executive Networking Reception, and the administration was actually here from DC. It was hosted at the Grand Hyatt at Scottsdale Resort and also sponsored by Intel, and the event connected small businesses with major corporate and government procurement opportunities, reinforcing our place here in Scottsdale as a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. So that was a really successful event, and I was thrilled to be part of it. Also, this past week, many of us up here on the dais attended the League of Arizona Cities and Towns annual conference, which took place at the Arizona Biltmore this year, and that we were surrounded by leaders from across Arizona who came together to share ideas, tackle common challenges, and discuss solutions that will ideally benefit our residents. One of those solutions that I was very proud to participate in is there was a resolution for support that was there to be supported by the Resolutions Committee to bring to the state legislature this year, and it was sponsored by the mayor of Sedona, and it was the prohibition of apartment complexes or multifamily. Actually, it was mobile home communities in her community where they couldn't be turned into big, giant, short-term rental communities. And so I made an amendment to also include condominium projects, condominium associations, that those would be included and not be allowed to be turned into just a giant short-term rental opportunity. And she accepted that amendment, which I was thrilled about. And so that'll be moving forward. Hopefully, at least it'll get started in the state legislature this year. In addition, as we head into fall, we are looking forward to lots of exciting initiatives coming forward to your City Hall, and we encourage you to stay tuned and stay involved. And before we get started on the meeting, I would like to congratulate all of the candidates that made it through the primary in July, 2 of which are on our dais. Councilwoman Whitehead, she was elected outright, so I'd like to say congratulations to Councilwoman Whitehead. I actually have a letter of congratulations that you can put on your wall. And good job. You don't have to campaign anymore for a while, so that's exciting. Also, Councilman Graham made it through the primary as well, together with 2 other candidates, Bob Littlefield, who we'll know and miss, who that was exciting. He made it through, but then elected to go a different direction, and of course Raul Zubia. So congratulations to Councilman Graham and the others as well that made it through. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. And Councilwoman Whitehead would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. Listen, I'm glad to have the floor and be able to say thank you to all the people that voted. You know, nobody thought that I would get into politics anyway, because I'm an engineer, and then nobody thought I would get into politics and come out more optimistic about the future and humanity. But when you're in Scottsdale, it's hard not to get more optimistic when you have the opportunity to deal with literally thousands and thousands of people. This is such a community we have of people who care, and it's diverse, and yet we come together on issues, and there's just no way that anybody who knows this community can't know that we agree on so much more than we disagree on, and the desire here to work together and solve problems and think about the future is unlike any place I've ever been. So we operate like a small town, but I want to tell you, when about 8:15, when those numbers come out and there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of votes, you're like, these are people who cast ballots I don't even know. It's humbling. They weren't all for me, but it's humbling to believe that all these people care enough to vote in the middle of July. And so thank you. And congratulations also to my colleague Barry Graham, to Raul Zubia and Michelle Ugenti-Rito, because 2 out of 3 of them will be joining us up here. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I forgot my good friend Michelle Ugenti-Rita. I'm so glad you just said that. She also made it through the primary. She's a very good friend of mine, so that would have been very awkward. So congratulations to all the primary candidates that made it through. Oh, okay, go ahead.
I am so sorry. I was also going to, how many people are here to speak public comments tonight? There are a few. I was just, while I have the floor, thank you for giving me back the floor. I was going to ask my colleagues up here if they might, for this tonight, since we have so many public speakers, support me in my motion to suspend the council rules relating to public comment. Instead of making all these people wait till the end of the meeting, go ahead and have up to 10 public speakers now. So I move to do that if I have any support for that.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, and forgive me, City Clerk Ben Lane, I don't have the list. Here it is in front of me. What are you exactly referring to?
So there's a lot of people who came for public comment, so I want to just have them.
You're talking about the non-agendized public comment, or just so we're clear on what you're referring to?
Tonight, and then there's another issue later to talk about my agenda item.
So we'll go ahead and take a vote on this.
Thank you.
All right. So moving right along, moving on to presentation and information updates. Tonight, City Council will recognize employees with 20 or more years of service as of August 2026. And with that, I'll turn it over to Holly Peralta, Communications Senior Director.
Good evening, Mayor Borowski and council members. I'm happy to be back with you this evening to announce our city employees who have reached 20 or more years of service. That list tonight actually includes one of our city charter officers. So in light of that, I have asked Chief LeDuc to come up with me, and he is going to say a few words about our city attorney, Luis Centella.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I wanted to take a minute to really recognize 25 years of incredible service by Luis to our city. And I've had the privilege of working with Luis for all of those 25 years as a colleague. And what always stood out to me with Luis is how he never practiced law from a distance. He was always engaged. When he was a police legal advisor, he would come out to crime scenes. He would stand along our officers late at night. He would show up on scenes that were complex and difficult and sometimes dangerous. Actually, he asked me for a bulletproof vest, which we're providing him for showing up. He took the time to understand the legal challenges that were always omnipresent with the police department, and it was because when he gave advice, he wanted it to be practical, he wanted it to be informed, and he wanted it to be grounded in the real world. So it's with that kind of engagement, it was no wonder why Luis grew from a prosecutor to a police legal advisor into a leader in the city attorney's office, and ultimately our city attorney and a parliamentarian. Luis is one of the most motivated, talented, and skilled attorneys I have ever worked with. And in my opinion, he has already established himself as one of the finest city attorneys Scottsdale's ever had. But most important, Luis cares deeply about the city and organization and the people who work here, and that speaks volumes about who he is as a person, and it's demonstrated through his work product. I just read the newest highlights from the city attorney's office, and there was one quote in there that really stood out to me, and that's Luis stated, "We are embracing a culture of innovation and continuous improvement, seeking new ways to enhance our services, streamline operations, and better meet the city's evolving needs." And I know personally that these are not just words, it is a reality under his leadership. So Luis, congratulations on 25 years. I'm proud to have worked alongside of you during those 25 years, and I know Scottsdale is better because you chose your career here. Congratulations, sir.
Luis, we'll have you come up in just a moment. We also have a few additional city employees with us tonight that we would like to recognize. We have Seth Peterson with 20 years of service. He's with our city prosecutor's office. We also have Alan Christensen. He is with Web and Design Services. He has 25 years of service. And we have Kevin Orvis, who's with the police department and 25 years of service. If you would all like to come up, we'll take a photo with the mayor and council members and congratulate you for your service. Thank you.
congratulations to all of those employees, and thank you for your service. Next, we have executive session announcement. As is the case at every meeting, the council may make a motion, if necessary, to recess into executive session if we need to obtain legal advice on any applicable item on the agenda. If so authorized by the council, the executive session would take place immediately and will not be open to the public. The public meeting would resume immediately following. Next, we have meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve regular meeting minutes of June 9, 2026, special meeting minutes of June 9, 2026, special meeting minutes of June 16, 2026, executive session meeting minutes of June 16, 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Please indicate your vote. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have consent agenda items 1 through 26. Do any members of the council have any questions or wish to pull any of the consent agenda items? I know that I have already pulled item number 26, and that's the Budget Review Commission item. And anybody else? I don't see anybody else. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 25.
Mayor, I apologize. We have a couple.
Oh, public speakers. Sorry. We have a couple, actually. We have Leah McCarty on item 18, and then Joe Junker will wait on you for item 26. Come on up. I'm sorry, to the right there on the podium, Leah, right?
Okay. Hi, my name is Leah McCarty. I'm an Arizona business owner and the founder of Creative Cupcakes. I also run an advocacy group called Urban Night Girl. My work began in the streets of Phoenix helping vulnerable people, families, victims, and children. But eventually I realized something. Helping people after systems fail them is not enough. So I followed the problem upstream, from the streets into the courtroom, from community advocacy into constitutional rights. Today, I sit in courtrooms, attend government meetings, work alongside families affected by CPS and foster care, and I bear witness when citizens are passed from agency to agency looking for somebody willing to take responsibility. I advocate alongside families, including my current victims, the Burr family. In Luke 12:48, it tells us, "For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required." Government has been given enormous power, so we, the people, have every right to require an accountability. So tonight, Scottsdale is considering funding for forensic services used to investigate crimes. That's good. Let's follow the evidence. Chief Joe LaDuke, when Scottsdale discovers credible evidence of a crime that crosses outside Scottsdale, who owns that evidence next? Who documents the referral? Who confirms it was received? Who follows up? Jerry Sheridan, as the sheriff, when evidence reaches Maricopa County jurisdiction, what does your office do with it? If MCSO uses powerful surveillance technology, including automated license plate readers, then show us the safeguards. Show us who has access. Show us the audits, show us the retention rules, and show us what happens when evidence indicates a crime. County Attorney Rachel Mitchell, when law enforcement brings evidence forward, who owns the decision to prosecute? And when prosecution is declined, how are victims given a meaningful explanation? DCS Director Catherine Patak, families cannot continue being bounced between DCS, law enforcement, and courts while children remain in government care. Attorney General Chris Mays, when your office exercises statewide investigative authority, we the people deserve to know what was investigated, what jurisdiction existed, what conclusions were reached, and where responsibility went next. Governor Katie Hobbs, executive authority carries executive accountability. The scrutiny surrounding Sunshine residential homes and Arizona foster care system should concern every taxpayer and every parent. Tonight, I'm asking Scottsdale to decide those statewide matters. I'm asking Scottsdale to establish one simple principle. When evidence crosses a jurisdictional boundary, it must not disappear. City, police, sheriff, county attorney, DCS, attorney general, governor, every office has a lane, every office has authority, and every office should be able to establish its jurisdiction, identify what action it took, and document where responsibility went next. And one final observation about accountability. As we watched tonight, a lot of applause. Scottsdale published decorum rules prohibit applause. If their chair chooses when the rule is enforced, then we the people deserve to understand how those rules are being applied. Government cannot demand strict compliance from citizens while applying its own rules. They must apply consistently. The same principle applies to jurisdiction, evidence, and law enforcement. Establish authority, follow the rules, document the action, hold everyone accountable. Jurisdiction determines who has authority.
Thank you, Leah. The time is past, but thank you for your thorough explanation.
Okay.
Appreciate it. All right, so we have a motion for consent agenda items 1 through 25, and I will ask for the vote, please.
Mayor, who seconded the motion?
Second.
Oh, thank you.
And Mayor, it's for items 1 through 25, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, please register your vote. Thank you. Moving on to item 26, and this is the Budget Review Commission item. Let me go to the specific language here. I won't take too much time with it. It's a proposal, the BRC for 26-27. The Budget Review Commission identified 7 areas, actually 10, but 7 areas specifically that they would focus on in the 2026-2027 fiscal year. And of those, there was one, number 2, that deals with sunsetting the preserve tax. And I am going to make a motion to remove that item because since the Budget Review Commission brought these forward, we have been presented with a lawsuit, a claim, legal claim about the same matter. So it wouldn't be appropriate for the Budget Review Commission to be working on that during the course of the litigation. And then the second item I want to enhance is item number 5, which has to do with the funding of aging infrastructure, which the Budget Review Commission would like to review the city's aging facilities and associated capital and maintenance funding needs. And I would like to add a special emphasis that they focus their attention on water and sewer facilities, enterprise funds. So I'm going to make a motion to move this forward with those amendments, and I see Councilwoman DeBascus would like to speak on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sonia, were there some items, I understand from my Budget Review Commissioner, you may have wished to prioritize?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Are there some items here that you would wish to show as prioritized?
For the Budget Review Commission?
Yes, for the Budget Review Commission. You have items here, numbers 1 through 10. And was it your desire to prioritize them so that the Budget Review Commission could have a little bit more direction?
Yes, we would like the Budget Review Commission to prioritize these because there is quite a few items to try to accomplish within 1 year. However, we are not prioritizing it for them. We're allowing them to prioritize. The aging facilities funding priorities is a priority that the Budget Review Commission has mentioned, so they probably would prioritize that one as well.
So in your view, is it necessary for us to amend this in any way to mention that there will be a prioritization that will take place by the Budget Review Commission?
Councilwoman DeBascus, members of the council, the Budget Review Commission do appreciate the direction of council, so if council would like to help prioritize that, they would welcome that.
Okay. I do think that there is an item on here that Mr. Newman mentioned to me that item number 3, the bond 2019 project, that was a question that he spoke with you about and feels that that has been resolved. So that could be deprioritized or
Absolutely.
removed from the list.
And we can also provide them
Number
updates.
3, bond 2019 projects, a review of the committed and expended funds of the 2019 bond projects and the projects that remain to be completed. That's a typical report, right? So that was one that he was suggesting might be removed from the list because he felt that that was completed. As far as I'm concerned, I feel confident that the Budget Review Commission can prioritize them. I think they're aware of what they're excited about, but so I guess I would move, amend the mayor's suggestion to remove item number 3.
Before I entertain that, would you agree that's complete then, Sonia? I'm sorry, City Treasurer.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, we can certainly provide the Budget Review Commission with memo updates on the progress of the 2019 bond program projects, and we don't need to have them prioritize that as a discussion item.
And I know, okay, and I know there's a member of the Budget Commission. Any objection? All right. I hear a head nod. I'll accept that friendly amendment and with the motion, add the elimination of item number 3, the evaluation of bond 2019 projects.
Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are you going to second it then? Second. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second on item number 26. Does anybody, Vice Mayor McCallum?
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to second your motion, but I did want to speak to, I don't believe that the Budget Review Commission should be put in a situation where they're discussing things that there is a lawsuit pending. So I would agree with that motion. That puts them in a very peculiar situation, and that's something that the council should be deciding on. So I was just going to agree with you, but I wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Okay, and I know we have a public speaker as well, and City Manager has indicated his desire to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add a little context to item number 5 and how that came about. This specific item is meant to city facilities such as City Hall and other city-type offices. Wasn't meant to be capital projects of that nature. That's certainly reviewed through the capital program. And to get just a little bit more context to it, the Budget Review Commission asked me, after our extensive work as it relates to pavements, there's a pavement condition index that we've discussed ad nauseum about our roads, and I was articulating, they said, what's next on your list, Mr. City Manager? And I said, it's actually facilities.
Yeah.
Because there's the same type of index that you can do for facilities such as we're sitting in, and we already have some of that work done and anticipated doing more of that work and then bringing that back to the commission for discussion and education. And so I just thought that context as it relates to number 5 may be helpful. It wasn't intended to replace our capital improvement projects program, which would be including water and wastewater that will be discussed through the budget development process. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So if I hear what you're saying, we get a little remodel in the Kiva? That would be fabulous.
Yes, this,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, we actually do have a project, and working with my colleagues, it was queued up for approximately this time of year, and given the election cycle and a little bit more outreach and engagement that we wanted to do with City Council, we have delayed that project until 27, sometime in the calendar year in 2027, and we want to engage you as to what this may look like, and particularly the soundproofing and the technology has really become a challenge for our community members as they hear you do your business in here. But then also this specific element really relates to the aging infrastructure such as roofs, HVAC, things of that nature that we have to continue to invest in, as we have a great number of facilities across our organization and community. So that's what that was intended to do, and there is an index that you can apply to each one of those buildings and certain assets, and that will help us prioritize it. So it's an extensive process, and that's what we meant by item number 5. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Councilman Graham and then Joe Junker, we're going to have you come speak.
Oh, it's okay. He can public.
All right, why don't you come on up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor McAllen. Thanks. This was on prioritization, and I wanted to express it from a citizen's perspective as well. The concerns we have is that the capital projects do seem to be a major issue, and it's sometimes appearing as though it's political expedience to be able to say, okay, we're gonna bypass the future in the interest of having some sort of public presentation that things have been reduced or whatever. We really need to pay attention to the future, so the SIP is really, really important. Want to emphasize that. The aging facilities, I now understand, as the city manager had clarified, that's more the aging facilities. But those 3 factors, the 5, the 9, and the 10, really can't be thrown down the road. We've got to keep our eye on the future. That's a big thing that Scottsdale's done in the past, really stayed focused on the future. So wanted to voice that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. Councilman Graham.
Mayor, thank you. Question really for my colleagues up here. So did we remove the item number 2, the preserve sales tax, because of the ongoing is that kind of where we, what if, I guess to the city treasurer, if that litigation is resolved and, dispositive action is taken and can they bring it back? I mean, I don't want to wall off an area that they want to talk about, but I understand the need to avoid it. But if that resolves, can they then bring it back for their own discussion analysis?
They can certainly bring it back.
Okay. That was a question on that. And then, number 5, funding of aging infrastructure. This is kind of one of those basic things, and I think we're already doing that, but, it's really focusing on our net depreciable assets. And so that, we have everything from our facilities to our roads and everything that we can call an asset. And what is an asset? An asset is something that you benefit from for more than 1 year. And, what are we doing as far as repairs and maintenance as a percentage of net depreciable assets every year? And what are we investing capital expenditure-wise in our net depreciable assets? I mean, you can look at those sort of ratio and trend and comparative, across our peers, and making sure, like the speaker said, that our infrastructure and our capital assets are being invested, and we're getting away from what we were doing in the past as far as deferring maintenance. And then we saw kind of our roads were sort of falling into a little bit of disrepair, so we're catching that back up. We always know that catching up on deferred maintenance is more expensive than the savings you get from the current time by not doing them. And so that's something that, I think my colleagues, every colleague up here that I've spoken to, is very important to them that we invest in our net depreciable assets. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will ask for a vote on item number 26 with the amendments. Thank you. All right, now on to the regular agenda. Item 27 is short-term rental emergency contact code amendment. And for this item, we'll ask City Attorney Santea to give us a brief presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. I'm here to talk to you about proposed ordinance number 4720. And what it does, it closes a loophole in our short-term vacation rental ordinance. Under state law, there's specific authority to require that a short-term vacation rental operator have an emergency contact available to handle both emergencies and complaints. The law is very specific. What this does, the existing requirement is that a person be available for emergencies. Now they'll have to be available for complaints, and we'll get into that a little bit. Why are we doing this? The Scottsdale Police Department fields frequent complaints and emergencies tied to these businesses. And the current version only requires them to be responsive to emergencies, not just complaints. What's an example of a complaint? Noise. People doing things that are not necessarily immediately threatening public safety, but they're disturbing the peace, they're disturbing the neighborhood. So the gap that we have now leaves the city without a direct enforcement tool when a designated contact ignores a complaint that never arises to an emergency response. So we're not asking if the person is notified that they respond if it's just a complaint. We're just asking that they be available 24 hours a day, like they have to be now for emergencies. So it's not an additional burden. And as you can see from the slide, the state law is posted. So again, 24-hour availability, they have to have that now. The only difference is they'll also have to have 24-hour availability, the same person, for complaints. With emergencies, they may be asked to respond within an hour. There's no change there. But they need to be able to pick up their phone, answer the email when there's a complaint. There's no requirement that if it's just a complaint that they go actually out to the STR. The ordinance now has a definition of emergency. It has a definition of complaint. And basically, to sum up the definition of a complaint, it's the unlawful operation or a report to the scene of a crime, disturbance, loud noise, or other activity that's offensive or detrimental to the health or safety of a neighborhood. For example, let's say there's excessive parking related to this short-term vacation rental, lots of noise, etc. This chart just outlines the penalties. If an emergency contact is not available, either because the police are calling them because there's an emergency or a complaint, they'll be penalized for not picking up the phone or answering that email. Now, if it's just a complaint, they will not be penalized because they don't go out to the short-term vacation rental. That's only for emergencies. So every short-term vacation rental operator already should have a designee available to answer emergencies 24 hours a day under our ordinance. That same person now is responsible for being reachable for complaints. Additional resources. It should not require additional resources. Our existing police and code enforcement personnel will be involved in enforcing it. In fact, Sergeant Bowles, who's our primary enforcement, is here. I've talked about the ordinance. He supports it. Chief LeDuc's here as well, if we want to hear from the police. This ordinance was reviewed by the police. It was reviewed by the other departments that are involved with short-term vacation rental ordinances. In closing, I want to say that probably the vast majority of any enforcement ordinance that the city has brought forward, I've written in the last few years. And I would not bring an ordinance forward unless it was in full conformance of both the state law and the Constitution and within our existing powers. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Attorney, for the presentation, and thank you for your continued efforts in this. I know that you've been working on this continually, the ordinance before about the event ordinance, and then this. This is one of the chief complaints we receive on a regular basis. This is one of those things when I'm in public, people come straight for you and they say, hey, you know, what about this? And in my neighborhood especially, I mean, everybody's neighborhood is that, but I'm very grateful that you brought this forward. It gives us one more tool in the tool bag for our citizen residents who feel like they don't have any power over this state law that was imposed on our cities. And this does give them a little more responsibility, you know, for the owner of the STR and to actually answer to the residents that are by that. With that, I am going to move that we adopt ordinance number 4720, amending Scottsdale Revised Code, Chapter 18, Public Nuisance and Property Maintenance, Article Vacation Rentals and Short-Term Rentals, Division 2, prohibitions and operation requirements by repealing and replacing Section 18-172, failure to respond to an emergency or complaint, penalties relating to the failure of designated vacation rental or short-term rental emergency contact to respond to an emergency or complaint.
Second.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Louise. So yes, short-term rentals was the problem that I didn't know we had until I was elected, and it's been one of the most unsolvable problems, although we've made tremendous progress, and certainly Louise has been a part of that. We've been to some pretty powerful meetings where people were unhappy and emotional, and we've come a long way since then. I think the clarification you gave, I hope that we had a couple short-term rental operators, or at least one that was concerned about this. This is definitely about addressing, like as you said, filling some gaps and making sure that we can enforce the laws that we have. We've always been ahead on this in the city of Scottsdale, so that we can enforce the ordinances we've put on the books. So I definitely support this, and hope to continue working with our state legislature to give us more control. And I just want to point out that there have been a couple people, maybe in the last year and a half, that have come to me with short-term rental headaches, problems. And Louise, you've done a good job helping solve those problems. Although I will tell you, one person moved. They actually left the state because of the short-term rentals overtaking their neighborhood and sort of the aggressive behavior of a few bad actors. So this is a serious problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Graham.
Mayor, thank you. This council asked the city attorney to look at more ways to increase enforcement, increase tools that we have. This is a very severe problem, and especially in 85257, 50, and 51. I would, something like 75-80% of the short-term rentals are concentrated in those zip codes. And I know on my own street, I'm in one of those zip codes. It's 7 houses on my cul-de-sac, and 2 of them are, short-term rental, many LLC hotel operators. And so we feel it, we see it every day, we hear about it, and I'm excited not only for this, but I'm excited to see what you come up with next, how you're going to push the envelope next, Mr. City Attorney. Not that this is pushing the envelope, but thank you, and I'm excited to support this.
Thank you. Councilman Quas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Explain it again to me. I want to be very clear about a non-emergency complaint that would be used in this scenario.
Some mayor and members of the council, the state law allows us to require an emergency contact to respond to emergencies or complaints. And previously our ordinance only required response to emergencies. But the same person that's responsible for responding to emergencies under the state law and under our ordinance will be the same person.
No, I understand that. That's clear. What's not clear to me is a non-emergency complaint.
So the ordinance differentiates between an emergency and a complaint. And under the ordinance, if it falls under the emergency definition, they can be required by public safety to respond physically to the location within an hour. If it falls under the definition of complaint, all they have to do is answer their phone or answer their email and have some sort of dialogue with public safety. They don't have to physically go anywhere.
Okay, so again, there's a noise ordinance that's in a neighborhood in this scenario, okay? So let's say the rowdy, let's just make it the worst case scenario, right? It's a bachelor party, right? Let's make it a rowdy bachelor party, and they're bumping music, and it falls above the noise ordinance, right? Is the police department not available for them when in a code enforcement aspect there?
No, the police would still be available and would respond. The only difference is you call the person, the STR operator, about a complaint, and perhaps they'll call the place and ask them to quiet down before the police get there. This does not change in any shape or form the way the police respond to calls. The only thing it's requiring is that they be available to take calls about complaints about the property. And they can be anything from the example you gave, Councilman, to just a bunch of cars parked in the neighborhood. So the concept is to embrace the full authority of the statute that the state gave us. And we left out complaints, and we were only addressing emergencies.
I understand the difficulty it is for bad acting Airbnbs, the difficulty it is for neighbors for bad acting Airbnbs. I fear undue regulatory requirements, but at the same time, I'm going to vote for this because of the fact that if Airbnbs, I hate using the word Airbnb, it's STR, it's short-term rentals. It's not just Airbnb's fault, right? I use it as the word Band-Aid, right? So the problem that comes in and that everybody knows is that if it acted the way it was supposed to act, you would know the person who owned the Airbnb and you'd be able to contact them directly, the STR, and you'd be able to contact them directly because that's difficult. And there are a tremendous amount of corporate-owned STRs, and the inability to be able to call a neighbor is not there. It allows itself for a regulatory environment to come to be placed in a regulatory bracket so as to ease the burden on the state through the police. So with that, I'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman DeBascus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just wanted to walk through the process. So there's a loud party, and an email is sent to the registered STR operator. And are we assuming that the registered email and phone number that are provided, if I'm asleep, I'm not going to answer it, right? So I think we're having a base assumption that there is some sort of an answering mechanism that's in place that will allow them to receive the email timely?
Yeah, they're required to, and it's generally by phone. And perhaps Sergeant Bowles could come up here for a second to answer the mechanics, since you do it all the time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to understand, like, what does this flow? What does this look like? And then what the consequences be for someone that accidentally misses it? Because we have sophisticated operators, like Councilman Quasman was mentioning, that own several in our corporation. We also have individuals, and we want to be mindful of the neighborhood, but what would the process be?
Councilmember, to that point, can I jump on your question and backpack it for the same, if I may?
Would you like to be recognized?
Please, Madam Mayor, to that point, quickly.
Were you done?
I can be done.
To that point, can I just add on, is this
Go
not,
right ahead, Councilman Quasman.
is this, and to ask if this is not already in the system? I mean, don't they have to, when they register to be an STR with the police or with the city, is that not already something that they have to provide in their application?
Yeah, they're not going to have to provide any additional information. The emergency contact that they provided when they got licensed is the same person that will be responsible for answering complaints. And I'll turn it over to Sergeant Bowles, and he can typically tell you how it works on a Saturday night.
Thank you for having me. Sorry. There's a couple ways this works, and I'll try not to be long. But we could have a situation on a Saturday where there's a promoter party. We go to the party, we clear the house, the tenants run from us, and we want to file charges. You know, the residents are asking what's happened, and we're like, we want to file charges. So what we were having is we would write to the emergency contact or the owners of these STRs and they just wouldn't respond. And they have the name of these people. We're trying to conduct an investigation, and we need a response. And they're required, as Luis said, sorry, informal, by law to respond to us, and they're just not. So that's one scenario this could be used. Another is a typical Saturday, and let's say a neighbor has tried to call the emergency contact, and there's 8 people in the backyard. The TVs are a little loud. We might have 10 calls stacked. I see the call come in. If I can call the emergency contact a little lower than you were talking about, sir, not quite the raging party where we're going to that one. There's 30 cars, we're coming. But I just need someone to help that resident quiet them down. That's really what this is designed for. And with 3,800 short-term rentals in the city, we need the emergency contacts and the property owners to be responsible. And so if I call them or email them at 2 o'clock on a Saturday and say, your 8 guests are blaring the TVs, can you help me out and get a hold of them to turn that down? That's really what this is for. Aside from the emergency where, God forbid, we have the shooting at the short-term rental, we're on the phone and we're like, you need to be here in 10 minutes to help us sort this out. So that's the lower level where we're looking to use this ordinance.
Councilwoman Whitehead. Oh, Councilwoman DeBoscus, did you want to continue?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
So with this ordinance, it sounds like what's happening is today we're being ignored in some instances.
Correct.
And so what we're seeking to do is make sure that if someone ignores us, it hurts, and then they don't ignore us next time.
Yes, that would be a fair assessment, yes.
Okay, so one of the things that I would ask is, what are we going to do to communicate with the short-term rental operators so that they understand that they cannot continue to ignore us? Do we have a communication plan set out so that we don't have a bunch of people saying, hey, wait a minute, I got a penalty, I didn't realize? What's the strategy there?
Yeah, we do. We have several ways we do it. One, there's an email that the city has that goes to every registered short-term rental owner. So that will go out. We'll use social media to get the word out on our platforms. And then we have a couple of organizations and groups that, like owner groups, that will also send this out. So we'll get it out through several different means.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
I'll just keep this brief. Yeah, businesses that run businesses have responsibility, so it's not the government's job to do their job. So yes, I absolutely support this. The public is paying for short-term rentals more than we should, and this is an excellent opportunity to make sure that we're all in this together, including those who are profiting from these operations should be responsible for these operations. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other speakers, so with that, I have a motion and a second to approve item number 27, and we can please register your vote. All right, that concludes the regular agenda items, and moving on to public comment on non-agendized items. And this period is reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and/or property owners to comment on non-agendized items that are within the council's jurisdiction. No official council action can be taken on these items that the speakers address, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. If you wish to speak on a non-agendized topic, please see the city clerk if you have not already registered. So I'll go ahead and call the first 3 or 4, and then we'll go down through. There are 8 total. Whitney Warman, Ryan Johnson, Dan Isaac, and Michael Craig Ramey. Oh, there you go. What's your name? I'm sorry, what was your name, sir?
My name's Craig. Michael Craig, yes.
Okay, Michael Craig Ramey. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and members of the council, my name is Craig. Scottsdale has quietly built a surveillance network around its citizens. My question tonight is simple. When did we agree to this? The Arizona Mirror reported that Scottsdale police conducted 12,527 searches of Flock's nationwide database in less than 6 months, while retaining vehicle location data for nearly 6 months. Flock says Scottsdale's real-time crime center combines its license plate reader technology with approximately 4,000 live video streams. In addition to Flock, Scottsdale has deployed Axon Fusus, an AI-powered platform that can integrate surveillance cameras, license plate readers, drones, AI-powered analytics, and third-party systems into what Axon calls, quote, a single pane of glass. The result is an expanding mosaic of information in a much larger privacy issue. The constitutional question isn't one camera or one license plate reader, it's what government can learn when thousands of observations are aggregated, stored, searched, and connected. So the question is not simply whether each technology has a legitimate public safety use. This goes well beyond Flock cameras. The question is what happens when all of these technologies come together in that single pane of glass. I reviewed 3 years of Scottsdale City Council agendas, minutes, and public records. I have not found where this evolving integrated surveillance system was presented to this council for public discussion about privacy and Fourth Amendment safeguards. If I missed it, please tell us when. Flock, Axon, and Motorola Solutions publicly showcased Scottsdale. So how did this happen before Scottsdale citizens had a meaningful say? Other Arizona communities are pushing back. Chandler discontinued issues of Flock cameras, and the Pinal County Sheriff's Office is ending its Flock contract over Fourth Amendment concerns about technology that goes far beyond simply reading license plates. Is the Fourth Amendment different here in Scottsdale than in Pinal County? This is not an argument against police. This is an argument that surveillance at this scale should never become normal without public debate and constitutional scrutiny. Scottsdale has demonstrated what this technology can do. Now this council must decide what limits will govern it. Please put this entire issue on a council agenda. Explain how this data is shared and retained, how much of a person's patterns and movements can be reconstructed, and what safeguards protect people. Public safety matters, but the Fourth Amendment is not an obstacle to be engineered around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Craig. Next, we have Jason Alexander, followed by Melissa Kemp, Christine Burke, and lastly, Laura Schwartz. Did I skip over you? Dan's next. Sorry, Jason. No, it's okay, Jason. Go ahead. You're closer. And then we'll go with Dan Isaac.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski. Mayor, before I dive into my actual comments, I wanted to get some clarification, if I might, about where we stand with the Elmo and playing videos. The last time I was here, there was some concerns raised by City Attorney Santaella, and he and I exchanged some very friendly emails about it, where he explained a specific objection to what I was playing at the time, but it didn't go into what I would like to play is a clip from a council meeting, not what he had described as electioneering. So I want to know if that's allowed.
From what I understand, and City Attorney can chime in if this isn't accurate, nothing profane and nothing advocating for a candidate or a campaign electioneering.
Okay. Is that okay? Well, just in the interests of simplicity, I've come prepared with just quotes, and perhaps next time I'll come back and play video, but thank you very much for that clarification.
Thank you.
So what I would like to talk about, like the prior speaker, is the Flock cameras. And I would like to mention how I believe Mr. Graham is being very deceptive about his position regarding Flock cameras. Graham has been on the council the entire time Scottsdale has used Flock cameras, and he has never opposed them. In August 15th, The Independent said, Graham noted the council never had a say on whether or not to use Flock cameras. And this is false. Once again, we see that Barry is lying about his positions. On November 17th, 2025, the council discussed Flock cameras in the context of their lobbying and their lobbyists to the state. Government Relations Manager Sarah Sparman presented this screen dealing with cameras and technology, and if I could have the overhead briefly, please. Sorry if you can zoom in just a little. I took a screenshot from the city video. But you can see there's multiple paragraphs, and what I've highlighted here is a specific reference to license plate readers. Mayor Borowski, you actually began that conversation. It was agenda item 13 on November 17th by saying it was about flock license plates and that you had received a tremendous amount of, quote, email traffic on the flock license plates. So I wanted to understand what it is, where we're at in this process, and just ask some questions. 3 commenters at that meeting specifically spoke about flock camera readers. As the discussion went on, Mr. Graham made a motion to say, on the public safety section, promote the responsible and transparent use of technology, period, and take away all the other references, just leave it at that. This is not a debate about what we are doing today. We're not talking about license plate readers. If I can keep on the overhead, Barry turned this into that, cutting out all of this text that was relevant to the license plate readers. So Barry saying, well, council's never had an opportunity to discuss it is, again, completely false. Barry actually concluded that meeting by saying, let's have a policy debate about flock readers. That's never happened. So I'd like to contrast Mr. Graham's statements with Councillor Whitehead, who's taken the lead on discussing the flock readers. In her latest newsletter, she states clearly, I support ending Scottsdale's flock contract and removing the cameras. Keeping Scottsdale safe and protecting residents' privacy are both top priorities. Stay tuned for updates. Councilwoman Whitehead, thank you very much for actually putting some action behind your words, for being truthful about this, and as a result, by contrast, calling out how once again Barry Graham is lying to the residents about his positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Isaac, followed by Melissa Kemp, Christine Burke, and Laura Schwartz.
There was another name before mine.
They're not here.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Dan Isaac, address on record, Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. At the last meeting, a resident, French Thompson, made some statements that were factually incorrect. Now, all of us have gaps in our understanding of what is fact and what is not. So I will forgive Mr. Thompson for making 2 statements that were absolutely incorrect, and we'll discuss why they were incorrect. But I believe our elected officials have a greater obligation to understand the truth about matters on which they vote. And I'm speaking about the Old Town parking deck. So not only did Mr. Thompson make some incorrect statements, but Barry Graham repeated that false statement and then doubled down on it. The false statement was that 37,000 residents voted for that location. That is not true. Barry then added, to add some foundation for his lie, it was in the election pamphlet. I've read that pamphlet, every word, over and over. The location in Old Town Scottsdale was not specified. Now, I could be incorrect in my understanding of the situation, so I'm actually going to let Barry explain how that site was selected. Sorry, technical error.
The ballot didn't specify exactly where the parking structure should be, right. But we worked it out as a council, on record, like we looked at different options, and so the vote happened in 2019, but we didn't decide the site until 2024, and then in 24 we voted to authorize somebody, to get a bid for design.
So I don't understand how a council member can claim in one breath that the residents picked that location, but say on a recorded line that they didn't. Barry went further and then talked about selective outrage because nobody's complaining about the Northeast Quadrant. No, it's not selective outrage, Barry, because the Northeast Quadrant had a parking study that showed there was a need there. City staff showed there was a need there. 200 or more business owners in that area said that they needed it. Our police department said they needed it. The prior council said it was needed there. And unlike the Old Town location, there is no historic building. There is a need. And by the way, even your supporters, Barry, agreed that the Northeast Quadrant was needed. It's not selective outrage that one is against the Southeast Quadrant, but support the Northeast Quadrant. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Melissa Kemp is walking up, followed by Christine and then Laura.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Melissa Kemp, McCormick Ranch. You've seen me here a while ago, and I'm back for, ironically, just for a few days while this is open public comment season. So thank you for letting me be here. Tonight there's an agenda item, number 31. It's about open public comment. I did sign up to speak on that, but I may not be allowed to because there's a waiting list. Arbitrarily, 3 people, but the 4th one is out. So that, to me, is a perfect example of how open public comment here and the rules that we're following are designed to quash and quell and push people away and not open them and bring them in to speak when they want to be heard. We had a lot of talk about flock cameras earlier, and I know people are thinking about 1984 and Big Brother. And yes, I think there's some Big Brother stuff coming, but it's not just the cameras. Big Brother happens when you have council members who seek to quash your voices and your statements. It's the public official who uses government process to make participation smaller or harder, who proactively and consistently blocks access from people trying to reach them, who moves public comment later, who makes it tighter, who tells residents email is enough and then ignores the emails, who makes it harder to sign up, show up, speak up, and be heard. That's wrong. And then have the chutzpah to claim that they have expanded access. Council members Graham, Quasman, Littlefield, and Dubovskis voted for these changes and supported them. All 4 of them are equally responsible and own that decision. They cannot hide behind staff. I filed a formal public officials request, a Freedom of Information Act request. I wanted to know what data they used to decide that there was a problem. And then if there was a problem, what data do you have to show that this is a solution? The city's attorney responded that the city had no quantitative data, no analysis, no ratios, no comparisons responsive to that request. No data, a decision that affected the right of 190,000 adults to potentially address their city council. The real test is not how you treat people who agree with you. It's how you treat people who challenge you. Disagreement is not a failure in government. Refusing to hear disagreement is. If this goes back to staff tonight, if I'm not able to talk on this item 31, let me just say if you don't vote to put it on the next public agenda, or certainly a current future agenda, then at least if you're going to send it back to staff and try and kick the can and hide, demand data. What problem existed? How often did it happen? Who was harmed? What did this change fix? Because until you can answer those questions, you need to go back to where we were, put open public comment near the front, and let people speak. And for goodness sake, Councilman Quasman, Councilman Graham, listen when they speak.
Thank you, Melissa. Moving on to Christine Burke, you're right there. Thank you.
Trying to move it along.
And Laura's right behind you, so thank you.
Thank you. Council, Mayor, everybody here. I had a whole thing prepared, but since everybody seems to be speaking about flock, contrary to the scuttlebutt, I did come here tonight to speak about flock. I pinned on my first police badge in 1986, and I swore to protect the people and also to protect my cops. And it's very hard to stand here and speak against something for law enforcement. Folks have talked about the Fourth Amendment. I'm just winging it now. We've got, I believe, 3 lawyers on the dais here. And I really urge you to take a look at Chattree, Carpenter, Riley, and Smith with the Fifth Circuit and what they're doing about privacy and how this is being viewed. And I will also tell you that there is nothing better than a cop on the street, a cop that lives in the community, that's in the community 24 hours a day, that hears alarms, sees body language, and can respond to anything and is not just on a fixed pole. And I would urge you to really research this issue. People have talked about what other communities are doing, but I'm 100% against this. I believe there's going to be potentially liability issues for the city if this continues. And God forbid one of the cameras leads to something where there's some liability or whatever happens here in the city of Scottsdale, and that's just what I wanted to bring to your attention. So thank you, and thank you to our police department for everything that you do, but you guys really need to research this and look into this because this is absolutely 100% not good. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Laura Schwartz.
Mayor and City Council, I wanted to maybe shift gears here and talk about something really positive that has happened. My name is Laura Schwartz. I worked a few years ago with Harold Back to bring a citizen petition to the City Council and asked that a third of a mile of sidewalk be built on 68th Street to connect the Arizona Canal with Camelback. It's 4 years later, but they have broken ground, and I wanted to thank the council for funding this. I also wanted to thank the staff for working through all the details with the neighborhood. The contractor is doing a great job setting up and breaking down their cones every day and keeping the neighborhood neat and safe. And I'm really looking forward to walking, riding, and driving on a safer street. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I think the whole city thanks you for your work on that. That was an overlooked need for far too long. Next, that's it. That concludes non-agendized comment. And let's see, moving right along, we have mayor and council items 29 through 32. And before I get started on that, item number 29 is my item, I should say responsibility, and that is the appointment of newly formed position of a council representative to the Scottsdale Arts Board of Trustees. And I, with this council's approval, will be joining the board as the appointment on behalf of the Scottsdale City Council. And I'm really excited about this. I think it's a great addition to have a member of the council on that board. Scottsdale Arts runs the Performing Arts Center, the SMOCA, and the Civic Center here. They do a lot in the community as well as public art. Taxpayer dollars fund them heavily, very, very heavily. And I think it's incumbent on the council to have a representative so that we know exactly what's going on and we have more of the residents' voices present on that board. So I'm going to ask for a motion to appoint me, I guess, in a second, and this council's support.
I'll second that.
I'll make the motion. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I thought Lisa had.
I didn't. I think there's a conflict. I don't know. Maybe not a conflict, but.
Go ahead.
All right, so we have a motion.
I move to appoint Mayor Borowski to the Scottsdale Arts Board.
Thank
And
you.
I will second that.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Graham.
I agree with everything the mayor just said. This almost feels kind of like, why didn't we do this long ago? And I'm glad we're doing it. And I'm pleased that the mayor is willing to serve. And I also want to recognize Councilwoman Jan Dabauskas, who led the effort to bring this idea forward. And she gained the support from all of her colleagues unanimously. And I think it's going to be a great addition to our partnership. So thank you, and I look forward to moving forward with this.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please indicate your vote. All right, thank you very much. Item number 30, I'm pleased to announce my appointment to the Western Spirit. Scottsdale's same issue here. We're going to have a board member, a council member joining the Scottsdale Museum of the West Board, and that's my appointment for that position was enthusiastically accepted by Councilman Quasman, who is, little known fact, a big Western art fan. Wow, look at that. Who would have guessed? And so that is my proposed designee for the Western Spirit Scottsdale Museum of the West Board of Trustees. And with that, I will make a motion to appoint Councilman Quasman to that board. Oh, can I get a second, or are you seconding?
I'll second it.
Okay. Councilman Quasman, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say, as somebody who grew up a stone's throw from the DeGrazia Gallery in Tucson, Arizona, this is something that's very important to me, and I'm very grateful. I want to express my gratitude to the mayor for this appointment, and it's something, and want the mayor and the members of the council that I will not let you down, and looking forward to working hand in hand with Todd and the rest of the wonderful crew over at the Scottsdale Museum of the West, and continuing to make this Smithsonian affiliated, thank you, Smithsonian affiliated museum the crown jewel of Scottsdale. So thank you so much, and I look forward to it.
Thank you. I'm excited for the information and outcome, and I think it'll be a great recipe for even more success. Councilman Graham.
I'm excited for Councilman Quasman to serve on this, and I look forward to regular updates from both my colleagues on the goings-on for these organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and please register your vote. All right. So I didn't take speakers on those. We have 3, and I'm assuming they're for the next items. I hope I'm right about that. Item 31 and item 32. Item 31 was brought forward by Councilwoman Whitehead, so I'm going to let her take the lead on this, and I believe item 32 is the same.
Thank you, Mayor. I think there are public speakers. Maybe we should have the speakers come forward first. Is that?
I'd like you to tell everybody what the initiative is.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. So sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. We all know that. You know, I never thought about public comment as optional. It was just so Scottsdale is just a tradition in Scottsdale. And I said this when the decision was made by this council to put the public comment meetings non-agendized to the back of the meeting, is, listen, we hear from so many people, and sometimes the delivery isn't quite as polite as we would like, but there's a message that we all hear, and that message is important, and we're a big city, and you guys are our ears and our eyes, and if you don't tell us about a problem, it may slip through the cracks. So public comment just makes Scottsdale, makes the city different from any other government. We're really, really connected. We're your neighbors. We're connected to you. But it serves more than that. By alerting us of issues ahead of time, we catch them, we fix them, and before they become problems, before we have a criminal problem or some sort of deferred maintenance problem. So these public comments are really important. And when we put them at the end of the meeting, we used to have kids from high school. We had one woman who was like very, very pregnant, and she had a baby at home. We've had so many. We had people who took trolleys to get here. When you kick those meetings to the end of, kick the comments to the end of the meeting, you've silenced all those people. And we've seen that. We've had kind of the same 3 people, thank you for always coming, but the same 3 people that speak at public comments. And that's not the diversity, that's not the input that we need up here. So I am asking my council colleagues to reconsider it. Listen, we all get beat up, but we cannot do our jobs without the residents of this community. And we know that the best ideas, our biggest successes, have started as resident ideas and were turned into reality by city councils that listened. So I would like, that's my motion today is to bring back or to restore public comment towards the beginning of the meeting so we hear from all those people and then get on with our business. And with that, I'll be happy to have the public commenters come up.
So what I wanted to have you do was just explain to the crowd what the agenda, the mayor and council item that's on the agenda. So I'm just going to read it.
Yeah, okay.
Let me just read it. It's good. So agenda is Councilman Whitehead has made a request for the council to consider agendizing. Just to be clear, it's not on the agenda tonight. Agendizing possible action related to moving the non-agendized public comment section back to the beginning, the beginning of the council meeting. And the only council action that may be taken on this is to direct the city manager or responsible charter officer to agendize the item for a future meeting, direct the city manager to investigate the matter and prepare a written response or take no action. And for item 32, same Councilwoman Whitehead is asking for the council's approval or support to agendize a future item related to political signs request, and that is to direct the city attorney and city clerk to agendize a council meeting item related to establishing voluntary campaign sign guidelines for expanded sign-free zones, number of signs placed per square mile, sign size limitations, sign installation, best practices, and sign removal. And again, the same three options are the only options that we can take tonight, and I am going to ask for the public comment now. So well, let me take the public comment first, please. Surprisingly, we're only allowing 3 speakers on this. Since there are only 2 more, I'd like to allow all 5 people to speak. Does anybody have an objection to that? No. Okay, so I'm going to do that. First, we'll start with Raul Zubia, then we have Dan Isaac, then Jason Alexander, Melissa Kemp, and Joe Junker, if he's still here. Betty Janik, I don't see unless I'm missing her beautiful face. No.
Good evening, everyone. Raul Zubia, address on file. And I am here to talk about item number 31, asking you to please agendize the item, bring public comment back to the start of the meeting. And because this isn't just about saving time, it's actually about showing respect and building trust between the council and the community you serve. As we have seen ongoing, when public comment happens hours into the agenda, participating becomes a heavy burden for the working class, families, and they're either forced to wait it out or not come at all. So public comment should not be pushed to a point in the evening when people can no longer stay, especially since listening to the public is the fundamental duty of council. It's not an inconvenience. Starting with public comment won't derail the schedule. Having a predictable start time actually makes things run smoother for everyone, since residents won't have to sacrifice their entire evening just to be heard. Moving public comment back to the front of the agenda costs nothing, requires no extra staff, but it pays massive dividends in the public trust. As you know, you were elected to represent all the people of Scottsdale, not simply conduct business in front of them. So I'm asking you to please make it easier for our neighbors to speak up and show them their voices truly matter and agendize this item for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raul. Next, I have Dan Isaac.
Dan Isaac, address still on record. I want to speak to both of these items, but I'd like to start by congratulating Councilmember Whitehead for her decisive victory in the primary, and happy to have you seated again. I think your vote count was more than the last primary when somebody got seated, and luckily you didn't come in third. With regard to public comment, all of the statements, all of the reasons to move it back have been provided ad infinitum. But the mendacity of some of the council members in supporting moving it to the end is striking. For example, they talked about, well, Phoenix does it, and so do other cities. And as I said before, I don't know a single Scottsdale resident who says, I really want to live in Phoenix, but I can't, so I had to settle for Scottsdale. Also, what was excluded from that data was that Phoenix council meetings start at 2:30, not 5 p.m. So somebody waiting to the end of a Phoenix council meeting isn't here at 8 o'clock, like I usually am. And then for some of the council members to say that they expanded public comment because they increased the number of slots is more lies. Because we have only had once in 2 years more than 10 people sign up for public comment. And since this change has been made, we have never achieved 10 people speaking public comment. So the reason it was moved is because people don't like being challenged. People don't like being called out on their lies. People don't like being called out on their bad votes. I'm not expecting anything to change. It's like spitting into a hurricane. But thank you, Councilmember Whitehead, for trying to do it. With regard to the signs, I would like the city to do whatever they can do legally to make it less of an eyesore during election season. Until recently, Fountain Hills somehow banned virtually every sign. And I'm not saying that they did it legally, and this year they've actually allowed them. But if there is any way to put restrictions, let's do that. We did not have council members put multiple signs right after each other, but there were several candidates in other offices who did that. We do not need to see 5 of the exact same sign in a row on Shea every 10th of a mile. So if we can limit that, please do. The other thing, and again, most of our council candidates were quite good at removing things, but if we have the ability to actually fine a campaign or the candidate for failing to remove their signs on a timely basis, we should do that. We should do it for 2 reasons. It's a public safety issue for our employees, our city employees, to have to go and remove and do the job that these people said that they were going to do. And secondly, we should do it because it's an eyesore after the monsoons when they're just flapping around. We need to put some teeth. So to the extent we can do anything, Mr. City Attorney, let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next, we have Jason Alexander, and then Melissa, and then Joe.
Thank you, Councilwoman Whitehead, for proposing this issue. I was going to quote your newsletter, but what you said was just so spot on and perfectly expressed why public comment is important, why seeing people's faces and hearing the tone in their voice is important. In the times that I've come to council meetings, like some of the items you've mentioned, I've seen people coming up here with zoning issues they had no idea where to go to get resolved, with neighborhood issues, people coming up to praise our police and fire for outstanding service, to talk about good things in their community, Miracle League, their teachers, their schools, their neighbors, and yes, to ask for help for a barking dog or to complain about $30 million wasted making a roundabout less safe. These are all very important issues. As Melissa Kemp brought up so wonderfully, and I've never met Melissa, I've only read her posts on Nextdoor, she asked for a public records request on any data supporting moving public comment to the end, and there was nothing. She got no data from the city whatsoever, no data on speaker counts, no data on early versus late public comment, no data on meeting delays, no data showing there was a problem being fixed at all. This was what we've come to find, something that had absolutely no quantitative counts, data analysis ratios, or comparisons. Anybody who follows city council knows that this issue was brought about simply because of the fragility and sensitive ego of one man. Can I have the overhead, please? There's Barry, and I'm sure we're going to see that look again before this meeting is over. Barry then had, what was the word Dan used, mendacity, to try to defend his bad decision by saying that moving public comments stopped people from cutting in line. Now, I don't know how that can happen when non-agendized public comment is itself agendized. And it further showed just the disrespect and insults for all those good reasons that I mentioned, that Councilor White had mentioned, of people coming to public comment. Just demeaning them and marginalizing them by saying they're cutting in line. That's quite a strange way of doing accounting. There was approximately 100 to 1 opposing this move and 1 in favor. The only person I saw in favor of this was Barry's campaign chair, Christian Serena, who somehow, as a wealth advisor who also knows numbers, parroted Barry's ridiculous theory about cutting in line. And multiple citizens called this out, and Barry acted like Christian was just a man on the street, not mentioning how he was his campaign chair. And people over and over complained about this and then reported that Barry blocked them over and over on social media, thus demonstrating a second time how he would make it harder for residents to communicate with him.
Thank you, Jason. Melissa, and then lastly, but not leastly, Joe Junker.
Melissa Kemp, McCormick Ranch, Mayor and Council members, thank you for letting me do this. That goes the right way. Really appreciate being able to speak. I appreciate that. You have 3 choices tonight, as we've heard, and as they've already put up on the screen earlier. You can take no action, you can put this on a future agenda, or you can send it back to staff for more research. I hope that you will decide to select the option of putting it on a future agenda and bring public comment back in front of the public for discussion and for action to restore open public comment and increase it or expand it. I hope you do that. I anticipate that it isn't just one man, one council person who made this decision. It's 4. And that block has stuck together fairly tightly on things. This is one where I think maybe some of you can give. But it was the block who made this decision. It was 4 council members who voted to silence and move your voices back. So if the block is going to hold together and not put it on the agenda, they're going to take the safe route and they're going to push it to staff. They're going to help City Mayor Canton or City Council Santiago take the heat, do the research, slow it down, bury it, let it go away. That's a delay. So if that's where you're going tonight, if you're going to punt toward send it to staff, then I'm going to ask you to give them specific instructions. Count it, because you already got recommendations from staff on this before, and they said it's best practice with no data, and that is not acceptable data to make good, responsible decisions for 190,000 people. So how many residents speak regularly? How many used to speak? What is the trajectory? What is the trend? What was it before you made this change and after? What were the data points that caused you to think this would expand access? How often did you actually have a problem? And give staff a date certain to return with the data to you so that this doesn't become, magically after November of this year. Public office is a public trust. When government asks us to trust its decisions, government has to show its work. Elections, they give you authority. They do not give you immunity from accountability between elections. If you believe these changes improved access, show us. Prove it. Get the data. Otherwise, put this back on the agenda and let's have public discussion about open public comment that your public can actually participate in. Thank you so much for letting me heard tonight. Thank you for getting this back in front of people. And I'm just going to hope for some officers who deserve my trust.
Thank you, Melissa. Joe Junker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you again, everyone, and thank you for your service, really. I'm seriously thankful that you're here. May I use the Elmo for a sec? I got I'm going to walk you through some, good, it's working. My name is Joe Junker. I'm a Scottsdale resident for a really long time, and I've been an issues advocate since 2014. Worked with a couple of these gentlemen on boards and committees and other things like that. But what I wanted to do is kind of walk into what is exacerbating part of our issue because the rules and processes have changed. Recent procedural changes now require a majority to be able to keep things on an agenda as well as put them on an agenda. So while majority rule is pretty normal for, can you see that okay? It's pretty normal for actual decisions. It's kind of a press for putting it on being able to put it at the agenda out there. So people are finding it hard to get their subjects on the agenda. The structural change is really straightforward in that a controversial neighborhood issue might be blocked for some reasons. You know, sometimes citizens' petitions for public votes are delayed. Communities effectively silenced. So we get frustrated, and it turns into something that makes it more difficult for us. We should view, and actually this is, you'll love, oh, there it is, Councilwoman Whitehead commented on this before, but we should view these as a civic warning. It's the canary in the coal mine, as we'd say. I've heard it before here today, but they're early warnings, small and quiet, inexpensive to fix, actually. But we've seen it. The partnership has to be in place to where the citizens don't get frustrated or shut out. As a matter of fact, and now I get to press on my life. It was an unagendized public comment that brought attention to the missing sidewalk on 68th Street, leading to the collaborative funding. It was an unagendized feedback that resolved park etiquette. Remember a number of those. We've seen some of that. Park etiquette at the dog park. It was an unagendized analytical oversight. The work by my wife, Yvonne, that identified significant capital road construction funding conundrums that were around. These examples prove that residents are not disruptions. We're an addition to the efficiency. So proposals should remain permanently, they should, non-agendized has to be brought up to be able to help us bring things to the council. And we should truly value the feedback of this early warning asset. We've heard it before that we have engineers and specialists that are out there in Scottsdale that can bring value. I've used up my 3 minutes. I went through every piece of paper I had. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, briefly, you want to talk about item 32?
Yeah, before I do, I want to make a motion on item number 31, and I just want to say that here's our challenge. I mentioned in my remarks that sometimes the delivery isn't that good, and believe me, I didn't get insulted tonight. That was nice, but I often do, and we don't vote based on that. We have to vote based on what is good for this community. So, some insults aside, I will ask my colleagues, we don't need research. This is a tradition in Scottsdale, and it works, and there's nothing to research. So I move on item 31, if I can see, to direct the city manager or responsible charter officer to agendize this item for a future meeting, just so this council can discuss public comments towards the beginning of the meeting together in public in a timely fashion. We did it at 10 o'clock at night when the change was made. So I hope you all will join me and at least put it on an agenda to discuss and then see what we can come up with.
I'll second that motion. And may I speak to my second, Mayor?
Of course. And it's Vice Mayor McKellen. I think I called you Councilwoman McKellen.
That's okay.
earlier.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I just feel that this is similar to what one of the citizens said tonight, that our job is to listen first and foremost to the citizens of Scottsdale. And by allowing you to voice your concerns at the beginning of the meeting, builds that rapport, that trust. Solange, Councilwoman Whitehead said something earlier, and it gave me a flashback to high school and coming and waiting eagerly to speak at the beginning of the meeting, and how exciting that is, and was for our youth when they, the Mayor's Youth Council, they represented us at the state conference last week. It should be not just an impassioned time where you say your differences, but an exciting time like Ms. Schwartz tonight, who thanked us Thank you for thanking us. That's so exciting. But with my second, I just really wanted to say that I believe that we should move it back to where it rightfully belongs.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second, and I'm going to speak to this before I call for a vote. I unequivocally support moving this back to the beginning of the meeting. Some of the comments we heard in support of moving it to the end are, people have their set agenda time and they show up here to do business before the city. What was omitted from that conversation is, generally speaking, those people are getting paid to be here. They have an allocated period of time where they're trying to get something, an initiative that usually has a lot of money involved in it, and I think that's significantly different than the general public coming and dedicating their time to sitting here through a meeting. I applaud those of you that have sat through long meetings to get to your 3 minutes. I don't know how you do it. I mean, seriously, that's passion. So I'll be supporting this. I didn't support the change in the first place. And before I turn it over for a vote, Councilwoman DeBoscus wants to speak.
So Councilman Littlefield and I had a conversation in December about the non-agendized public comment. And she and I made an offer to the public, and we offered to sit with the public from 4 to 6 on Mondays, twice a month. And we did so for 6 months. And there was not a single person who came who was only able to come between 5 and 6 p.m. We did have people come speak with us. They were people who were available at any time, but because we were here and available, they came to talk with us. The city attorney many times was sitting here with us and can verify. We did this for a 6-month period, and there was a time when we had a conflict, and we invited Councilwoman Whitehead and Councilwoman McCallan to sit in for us, and they declined. So our effort was to see what really is the issue here. This is an effort to reach out to residents. We made it available in this meeting. We put it out on our websites. The city clerk let folks know who called in, and for 6 months. And the issue didn't seem to be the issue that was presented as it is tonight. So with that, what I will also note that tonight we began non-agendized public comment at 6 p.m. So what that says to me is that it is not always 10 p.m., that we are available, we are here, we want to listen. And this is something that I think that has been discussed sufficiently. I'm disappointed that Councilwoman Whitehead is taking the opportunity to try to take swipes at her council members rather than really focus on the residents. We did have someone come here tonight and say something really lovely during non-agendized public comment, a compliment. You'd think that those things were at an end based on some of the comments that we've heard tonight, but they're not. People are coming to us and they're addressing us, and so I appreciate that. So with that, I'll make an alternate motion. Number 2, to direct the city manager or the responsible charter officer to investigate the matter and prepare a written response for council.
Second that.
Okay. Councilwoman Whitehead.
She's blocked. Point of order. She can only speak one time on this topic.
I forget what the rule is on that. Is that the rule? Is that the new rule?
Yeah, for mayor and council items, each council member can speak only once on the particular item.
So we just changed the rules on that and the speakers.
It was a few months ago, wasn't
Yeah.
it? It's been a while.
Okay, so a point of order has been called. I'm going to concede and agree with that. And so with that, let's take a vote on the alternate motion. And I know I've spoke, but I'm going to vote no on this because, well, you know what? I'm not going to vote no. I'm going to vote yes because I want to see what they're going to say. So that's good. We can see what's going to happen if we agendize it, so. Please indicate your vote. Thank you. All right, item 32, we understand what the issue is here, although I'm going to make the motion because we do need the city attorney to issue an opinion about this or a report. So I'd like to make a motion to direct the city attorney and the city manager, or collectively both, to investigate the matter and prepare a written response to the council, please.
I'll second that, but I'd like to speak to it.
So I think Councilwoman DeBoscus did second it, and we're going to hear from the city attorney first.
Mayor, members of the council, preferably, since this involves elections, if you could direct the city attorney and the city clerk to be the officers involved.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll amend that. Councilwoman Whitehead, lost your place, but go right ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I guess I'm fine having it investigated by the two of you, but it is something, and it's always nice when there's something that really unites our community. So I would have preferred an agenda item, but I will support this, if that's the expedient way to move it forward.
So going back to my motion, I'm certain if there's substantive issues we need to decide upon, you will put it on the agenda. So I'm not concerned about that. I think the opinion is necessary first, though. Councilman Graham.
This actually just more of a question. What was the motion to do item number 2, option 2? Yes. Okay.
Councilwoman DeBoscus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did receive a memo on this from the city manager's office and from the chief of police, who are responsible for sign enforcement, last week. A few of the things that were noted in there, there were about 2,600 signs that were removed during this period, and there was a number that was attributed to an increased volume of candidates, but also campaign and then signs in opposition. So just in general, there is an increase in signs this particular year related to this cycle because of campaigns and then because of opposition signs. So that is acknowledged by the city. So I think some of this is in reaction to the fact that there sure were a lot of signs this cycle. We do have an ordinance that was passed in December of 2011, and it specifically talks about what the state limits us to. So we are limited in how we can reduce and create sign-free zones. And so we can have 2 commercial tourism, resort, and hotel sign-free zones, and the combined area cannot exceed 3 square miles. So we've established this, although it does not hurt whatsoever to take a look and see what else that there is that we can do. The signs are a very difficult problem, and I think we're going to see that. You know, there are several of Councilman Whitehead's signs that are still up and out. You know, and so even though as of August 5th her signs should have been down, it's hard to get every single one of them down. Council candidate Zubia has one that's in one of the sign-free zones right now. So
this is electioneering, city attorney. This is electioneering.
If that was a point of order.
Problem? Yeah.
Point of order, electioneering.
So
this is a difficult problem, and so I think one of the things.
Councilwoman DeBoscus, there's been a point of order. Can you let me address it, please?
Oh, sure.
Can you state your point of order?
She specifically called out 2 people who are currently running for office. That is electioneering.
So one of which is running for office. And so if you could please refrain from specifically talking about a candidate actively, that would be great.
Sure. I'm done with that part. But the point that I was making is that this is actually a really difficult problem. I think it's hard for the people who have the signs out. And you get a lot out and you ask your sign guy to create a map, but then you know, a lot happens. And so it's a difficult problem, and so I would hope that you could maybe address some of that. I did talk with Chief LeDuc about this in advance, and we talked a little bit about communication, and maybe we could increase communication with candidates a little bit, although our city clerk does spend quite a bit of time with his campaign manual communicating with candidates. Unfortunately, not all candidates are running in our city. They're statewide, they're countywide, and so we do have a number of candidates to consider. So I hope in your memo that you too will consider those things when you bring that back to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Another point, I think it is very important that the city attorney look at this because one of the things that people may not be aware of, the statewide laws on signage supersede the city's ordinances. And beyond that, there is a Supreme Court ruling on signage that you can enforce where the signs are and how they're placed and when they're placed, but not the content of the sign. So that is why there's an extensive amount of signs that pop up during election time. You may notice that there's more window washing signs, or there's more signs for concrete companies or for whatever. Because more signs pop up during this time, it just looks like a barrage of signs. That was a Supreme Court ruling that did happen in Gilbert. So it is super important that people know also that volunteers put up signs. An example, when I ran for office, my husband and I put up all of our signs, so we knew specifically where our signs were. We didn't hire a company. We were holding ourselves accountable. And I think that might be similar to what Councilwoman DeBoscus is referring to, being responsible with your signs. We all agree that's important, but it is important for our city attorney to look at this, because what seems like a simple suggestion, there may be rules and laws that supersede what we can actually do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there is a motion and a second on the written report on item number 32, I believe that was. Please register your vote. Thank you. That concludes our business. Turning it over to any council members that have anything they'd like to report. This is the time now to do that. Councilwoman Whitehead.
Well, last week was lovely. We had, first of all, it ended with the grand opening of our dog park. And again, former council members, the people who make these things happen are often long gone when they do happen, but that was just great. That was 2019 bonds. And then the League of Cities and Towns, 3 of us were there from this council. And it was very inspiring. The message is basically we have to work together. The quote that stuck with me is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That was sort of the message of the conference, and how to disagree better, get things done, because Lord knows we're in this together. And we need to see some of that here at this council. I hope we'll see that moving forward. Tonight wasn't the direction I wanted to go, but every day is a new day. So great week last week. Thank you.
Vice Mayor McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. It was a great conference. I always thoroughly enjoy it, getting to meet representatives from throughout the state. Congratulations to our Parks Department on the new dog park. But what I did want to talk about is an upcoming event. I know it's a few weeks out, but on 9/11, we will be doing the reading of the names. A lot of the your local officials here and city staff and some volunteers from the public will be reciting all the names of those who were victims during 9/11 out here in front of City Hall, and we want to make sure that you get that on your calendar. 6 a.m. It's New York time. It's when it occurred. So it'll be starting at 6 a.m. in front of City Hall, and it will be started by our fire chief.
Thank you. Councilman Graham.
Mayor, thank you. We've been off for summer break. It's really good to be back. And there's been so many announcements and so much progress going on in our city. Scottsdale Progress did an article on Thomas Road work that's underway. We've heard for years, and this goes back to kind of our discussion about deferred maintenance, getting in front of our roads, making sure potholes are filled. We've heard so much from people along Scottsdale Road, And we not only are improvements underway, but we are doing it largely with a federal grant. I want to remind my council colleague Quasman and Todd Bankfair that kids can visit the Western Spirit Museum for free on September 5th and 6th. You probably knew that. You were probably just about to say that, weren't you? It's good. It's a good chance to, if kids haven't been to the museum, Western Spirit, to take them. And I also wanted to comment on the dog park opening at Thompson Peak. That's going to be a wonderful asset for years to come. It's our third or fourth dog park at 3.5 acres. We had to relocate drainage and utilities and all that, and it's got spacious parking. It's got a connection to the pedestrian. It's got a pedestrian bridge to the rest of the park, and it was just my honor. Councilwoman Dabauskas was there, and Councilwoman Whitehead were there, and it was a real honor to see a voter-approved project from the 2019 bonds come to life. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. That concludes our business for this evening. Thank you for being here, and we will see you tomorrow if you're so inclined. Thank you. Move to adjourn.
Second.